35 pounds of methamphetamine and nearly 100 guns connected to a drug trafficking operation in northeast Oklahoma.
Swirling motion of the rain is now underway. The nice thing is that's the next step in getting rid of our precipitation. And in Newton County, a wastewater project used to detect COVID may soon be used to detect other diseases.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first let's go to Michael Hayslip.
All right, Tanya, we knew that the big factor for this morning was waiting on the storm to stall out to our west, stop, and then begin counterclockwise movement, come through us for the rest of the morning. Yeah, we're going to have to put up with more hard rain, at least for the next several hours. Here's a positive aspect. This is that last phase as this thing begins to push into central Missouri, and we'll be done with it. Now, that gives you an idea where it stalled and how it turned over. Here's where we sit right now, and we are seeing the rain really come down right along 49 once again, and especially south of I-44. Down into Newton and McDonald County. Then we see right along the Mount Vernon exit as well. Now, if you get out to the west right here, you're starting to clear off because there's not a whole lot on the backside of it, and we don't have to worry about anything coming over from the south. It's going to be kind of turning over, the system turning over on itself as the morning progresses. However, look at it coming down at 7th and Range Line in the street light. My goodness, that is called getting on it right now. 54 degrees is where we stand. Humidity, of course, going to be extremely high, and our temperatures really just everything from low to mid 50s. Nothing, no anomalies stuck in there. Now, as we progress through the morning hours, there we go. Watch everything push off to the east, and yeah, we get a little backfill on it for the early afternoon hours. But after that, we're done. We can say goodbye to it. We can get ready for partly cloudy skies Friday morning, but gradually clearing off. And then, thank goodness, our temperatures, well, they're not going to fill, but I'm going to tell you this much. Our temperature is going to make it up into the 70s on Friday. And then we sit back, get ready for a nice little warm-up. That Saturday rain, that's going to be light and scattered for the nighttime hours. Sunday and Monday looking absolutely delightful. Carry the sunshine on to start the new work week on Tuesday. And look at those overnight lows. Not a worry around at all, as we'll be anywhere from the 50s all the way up to the 70s here by the time we start next week.
All right. I'm ready for this rain to stop. We're cooking this morning, so we're going to be grilling this morning.
Oh, you meant you're literally cooking. I'm like, we are cooking. I just filled like 2 minutes right there.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm cooking. But you meant you're actually cooking.
Hopefully we got it figured out. Do we got it figured out, guys?
Skywatch Weather Center, as my grandma likes to say. We're cooking with grease.
There we go.
Boom.
All right, Oklahoma authorities shut down what they call a large methamphetamine trafficking organization in northeast Oklahoma. Officers with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and the Bartlesville Police Department served 13 arrest warrants, seized more than 35 pounds of meth and nearly 100 guns. The OBN says the traffickers shipped anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds of meth into northeastern Oklahoma from the West Coast on a weekly basis. They say those shipments would then be moved onto the streets in Washington County, Nowata County, and parts of Kansas. You can find much more on this case. KOAMnewsnow.com. A lawsuit alleges a Barton County jailer bartered with inmates for sexual favors. In the suit, a woman who was an inmate at the time claims she and others were sexually abused and deprived of rights at the Barton County, Missouri jail by Deputy Antonio Azua. The accuser claims during her 3 times as an inmate from 2018 to 2019, she had to barter for more humane conditions or special privileges. The plaintiff also claims she was raped by Azua while she was shackled, and she had to perform a sexual favor in order to drink water out of a sanitary container. Defendants in the case have filed a response denying the allegations. Delaware County detention officer is arrested accused of smuggling contraband into the county jail. Anthony Coronel faces charges of bribery, official misconduct, 2 counts of introducing contraband into a penal institution, and possession with intent to distribute. Court documents show an investigation was launched after the jail administrator learned about the contraband being smuggled. A project that started in May of 2020 to detect COVID-19 early in Missouri may also be able to tell us when other diseases are present. Sewer Shed Surveillance Project has been sampling wastewater throughout the Show Me State to understand what COVID really looks like in the area and what variants are present. With the rise of at-home COVID-19 tests, health departments may be underestimating COVID and other virus cases in their area. This data could bridge those gaps.
When I start to see it in the watershed, sewer shed, then I can anticipate that, okay, we're probably going to have a surge because it seems to be coming. And sure enough, usually when I start to see it, then I can anticipate that surge. And then later on, when we see that it's declining, we can also anticipate that our numbers will decline.
Any virus can be tested in the sewer shed, which could be very useful for health departments in the future. Cherokee Nation says they donated nearly $500,000 to 136 Northeast Oklahoma volunteer fire departments. Each of the fire departments received $3,500 to go towards equipment, fuel, and other expenses. The tribe makes this annual contribution to help support the volunteer departments that otherwise rely on fundraising to maintain operation. The historic Carver League building in Pittsburgh is getting some much-needed renovations. Pitt State student Zach Burris is serving as construction manager. Burris is a School of Construction major. The building is getting new foundation supports, new walls, and a roof, and a new HVAC system.
Really, it was the challenge of it. So the renovation, taking an old building that needs completely gutted and redone and trying to make something good out of it. So the challenge of figuring out what's going on with the structure and how I can make it almost new again.
Career Building was an important gathering place for the black community in the 1950s. They would get together there because of segregation. Well, everyone's a pilot today, even if they have not trained, and that's because on May 26th each year, National Paper Airplane Day honors the simple aeronautical toy that has been around for thousands of years. Come on, Michael, you like paper airplanes. National Paper Airplane Day provides an excuse to play. Here's some fun facts about the paper airplane. The largest paper aircraft had a wingspan of over 59 feet. Students and employees from Germany created it on September 28, 2013. And the longest lasting paper airplane flight flew just over 29 seconds. This inexpensive, healthy, and stimulating form of entertainment brings lots of joy. So put down your smartphones and get outside for some primitive fun, though today you may want to play indoors.
Your paper airplane will not make it outdoors. The 59-foot one, who came up with the idea to build the spruce goose of paper airplanes?
Well, it was a class in Germany, like a school did. It was probably a class project.
You know what that is? We call that German engineering. Skywatch storm tracker, heavy rain right now through Newton and McDonald County. And now we're starting to see a little pocket build in Cherokee County as well. Now, remember, everything's going counterclockwise. So we're going to have some of this from the top, throw back to the west. And everybody out to the east, you're going to have the longest time because that's where it's finally going to depart. I'll give you an idea here about how it swirls and continues to do so till after the noon hour. But remember, after that, we're done and we head into Friday. We get some sunshine, and number two, we get warmth all the way up into the 80s for Memorial Day weekend.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Colgan Panthers gear up for the first round of the 2A state baseball tournament. Do they have what it takes to go all the way? We'll find out. Plus, 5 states hold primary elections earlier this week. Made us wonder, how often do you vote? And parents look for ways to talk to their children about difficult news stories like the Texas elementary school shooting. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Colgan Panthers hitting the road to Great Bend for the 2A state baseball tournament. Colgan's the 8th seed in the bracket, facing top-seeded Crest Lancers in the first round. Crest, undefeated, sitting at 23-0 headed into state. The Panthers are 10-12. Now, that's because Colgan got off to a bit of a slow start, went winless in their first 6 games, but they played some tough teams around here in a tough league. And now they're winners of 6 of their last 8 games, feeling pretty good about where they're headed when it comes to Great Bend.
we're very young. You know, we start 5, 6 sophomores and a freshman sometimes. So we knew we were going to have to, you know, deal with a lot of adversity because we were so young. Our league is very good, but veteran teams, our non-conference are veteran teams. And, you know, it takes you a while when you're young to learn how to play against those, that, you know, the older, more experienced kids. We're going to play a very good Colony Crest team, but, you know, we face some good teams and we just have to do what we can do. We're be confident in the skills that we've worked on and the mental approach that we've been dealing with and working on. So I just think overall, you know, we're rising to the occasion at the right time.
Nevada senior Case Sanderson named the Big 8 West Player of the Year. Sanderson, a first-team all-conference selection at both pitcher and in the outfield. Now, on the mound, dude was a machine. Finished the year 5-2. A 1.02 ERA and 41 innings pitched. He struck out 72 batters in those 41 innings. At the plate, just as dominant, Sanderson hit for a .516 average with 14 doubles and 4 triples, and he also drew 23 walks. You can check out the full Big 8 Conference All selection in this story on the sports page at KOAMNewsNow.com. Crowder College softball team playing in the national tournament in Yuma, Arizona this week. Rough Riders dropped their first game Tuesday night, 6-0 to McLennan. So Crowder facing elimination against Snead State and more great pitching as they fall 1-0. Crowder ends the season with an amazing 53-10 overall record. Pittsburgh State and Missouri Southern less than 24 hours away from competing in the D2 Outdoor Track and Field National Championships. Both men's and women's teams from both schools head into the meet nationally ranked. Now on the men's side, Pitt State 4th in the country, 15 athletes qualifying for championships. Southern is 10th in the nation and has 11 athletes competing this weekend. As for the women, Gorillas are number 10, 15 qualifiers. Southern number 21, 5 qualifiers in action in Michigan. You can check out a schedule for the national championship events in this story on our sports page, KOAMNewsNow.com. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, El Salvador extends its state of emergency for 30 more days in an effort to combat gang violence. And a check on our 7-day forecast. 5:17, great time for weather on the 7s. Give your give your eyes a second to adjust right there. And then as you see it in the street light, you could tell it is coming down in droves over 7th and Range Line. Now, we're getting closer, minute by minute, but there we are, still hanging on about, let's say about 80% of the 4 states still in the midst of rain right now. As we zoom in right here and take a look at that, the reason I want to point this out is our storm track's going to be a little bit confusing right now because it looks like everything's moving off to the northeast with that one cell that we picked up. But in actuality, it's spinning back over on itself. It's got that counterclockwise motion to it. Heavy rain throughout Newton and McDonald County, and then we got another one that's approaching Joplin, coming out of Cherokee County, crossing the state line, move our way up to the north, and that's where we've got some flood warnings for our rivers as well. If we go back to Saturday, just Saturday alone, you see that those orange areas. That's 3.5 to 4.5 inches of rain that we've picked up in the span of less than a week. It has just been one of those months of May. And of course, we've got the flood warnings for not only the Osage and the Little Osage, but now we're going to add the Marmaton River into that as well. Down to the south, still holding on to one flood advisory, not even a warning or a watch, one flood advisory for the Neosho River down in the Miami Commerce area. Remember, order of operations from most important to least important. It goes warning, watch, advisory. Nationally, or not nationally, I want to point this out regionally. For the past 2 days, everything has worked its way in from OKC up toward us. Well, that's starting to break up. And so if you get on the backside of this, you get a little bit of it's going to flip over from the north. But the farther west you are, the quicker you're going to clear off. Let's go back, excuse me, let's go back to 7th and Range Line. 54 degrees and not a whole lot of differentiation in temperatures, about 51 to 55. But the ridge of the jet stream, or the trough of the jet stream, excuse me, the trough right there, that thing has really taken off to the east, and that is great because that's going to help us usher out the rain. And so by the time we get into the evening hours, it's not only lightened up, but it's pushed out of here Great news, and then we can sit back and get ready for a really nice Memorial Day weekend because we'll be able to, let me take that back a day, because what we'll be able to do is not only get some sunshine, but more importantly, just get some dry weather. Yeah, the warmth and the sunshine are going to be nice, but the fact that even Saturday's rain is going to be light and sporadic, we can roll Friday to Tuesday, just kind of take a break from all this. Some of the biggest primary news this season came from Georgia. That's where Republican Governor Brian Kemp beat his Trump-backed challenger, former Senator David Perdue. It was one of several defeats for candidates that were backed by the former president. But Trump's choice in the Georgia Senate race, football legend Herschel Walker, easily won the GOP nomination. Ed O'Keefe with the details.
There were contests in 5 states across the country Tuesday night, but the ones here in Georgia probably had the most at stake. In his acceptance speech, Republican Governor Brian Kemp made no mention of former President Donald Trump, who campaigned hard against him, instead keeping his focus on economic development and reopening the state during the pandemic. He also kept his focus on his new Democratic opponent, Stacey Abrams. They faced off 4 years ago, and she says she tried telling Georgians then electing Kemp would be a mistake. She plans to do it again. Meanwhile, Republican former football star Herschel Walker now faces Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock in a race that could eventually cost tens of millions of dollars, as it's one of the few competitive races that could determine who controls the Senate next year. And the Georgia elections official who stood up most prominently to former President Trump and told him he wouldn't change the results of Georgia's 2020 elections, that's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Well, he fended off several challengers, one of them prominently backed by the former president as well. Now, down in Texas, the Bush political dynasty may have come to an end, at least for now. State Attorney General Ken Paxton defeated George P. Bush in a primary. He's the grandson and nephew of the former President Bush. Republican primaries will continue across the country through the summer. The former president plans to engage in many of them, but at least here in Georgia, he had a bit of a losing record. Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, Atlanta.
Our question for you this morning, how often do you vote? And we've given you 5 different options. Go straight to the poll, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Connect to us via our Facebook page. Be back with Health Watch right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, images and stories from Tuesday's mass shooting at a Texas elementary school are difficult to watch and hear, especially for children. But how do parents talk to their kids about it? Jen Sullivan has more.
The images are difficult for anyone, but the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas may cause fear and worry in small children who see or hear about it. When talking to them, make them feel safe. Licensed clinical psychologist Marisa Azarat says parents should first assess their own feelings.
Is it anger? Is it despair? Is it a serious anxiety, a severe anxiety? Once you do that, try to find some balance and then address your child.
Azarat says kids of any age can be bothered by what they're seeing. The images can show up in nightmares and night terrors. She recommends monitoring what children see. If they're too young, turn off the TV to guard against those disturbing images. Experts say when they see the same story, they may think the disaster is happening again and again.
You might see regression. Children that were already toilet trained, for example, they are regressing. Children that were sleeping alone in their bedroom, they might regress and not being able to do so. So we need to be patient.
If they're older, you may want to limit their time watching the news or on the internet. Azarat says asking questions and talking to children about their worries and concerns can help them get back on track emotionally.
Talking to them at their level in a concrete way, reassuring them, telling them that mom is here, that dad is here.
Reassure children that adults in schools work hard to keep them safe. She says all children need extra support and love right now.
The American Psychological Association also advises parents to seek professional help if their child is in need of more assistance. Well, 2 monkeypox cases have been confirmed in Utah. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says this means there is at least 3 patients in the U.S. with the disease. The other case was reported in Massachusetts. Several states, including Florida, New York, Washington, and California, have suspected cases. World Health Organization says more than 250 people in at least 16 countries have monkeypox. Most are in places where there's usually not an outbreak. CDC has now issued a travel alert advising all travelers to avoid close contact with sick people and wild animals. The agency says the risk to the public is low, but people should be aware of any unexplained rashes. Google is teaming up with the university to look at how phones can impact our mental health. The tech giant is partnering with the University of Oregon on the 4-week-long study. Researchers say they will look at how people use their phones and measure that against other standards of well-being, such as sleep patterns and physical activity. The research team will use Google's Health Studies app for their analysis. The app will collect information directly from participants' phones. Google says anyone who wants to participate can sign up using the Google Health Studies app starting on Friday. Participants must have an Android phone. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Coming up, Oklahoma authorities seized more than 35 pounds of methamphetamine and nearly 100 guns connected to a drug trafficking operation in northeast Oklahoma.
Slowly but surely, the rain is trying to move off to the east, and then we get ready for a delightful Memorial Day weekend. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a Newton County wastewater project used to detect COVID may soon be used to detect other diseases.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
All right, we're now above 11 inches, Tanya, at Joplin Regional Airport for the month of May. So we now clock in at the 5th wettest May on record in Joplin. And we've got more to come today. So we may end up at number 4. That's about where we'll top out. Here's what we've still got cooking on the radar. We've got heavy rains that are moving just to the eastern portion of Newton County, crossing 44 into Jasper County. A little bit there, headed right across the state line in Jasper County. That's going to clip Joplin and then head toward Carthage, up in between Lamar and Greenfield, and then Mount Vernon. The Mount Vernon exit really picking up right now on a north-south line, Monette, Mount Vernon, and right up there along Highway 39 up towards Miller. So those are kind of the key areas where we're seeing the heaviest of the rain. Of course, anybody in the green, I'm not taking that lightly either. Just want to point out where that hardest rain is right now. There it is over 7th and Range Line, coming down in droves. You can use the old cats and dogs if you prefer, but it has not let up. 54 degrees, that's why that number that we were talking about, eclipsing 11 inches, very well might get up to 12 inches by the time the afternoon is over. 54 right now in Joplin, temperatures anywhere from 50, I'll say about 52 to 57. That definitive cold front that we had at noon yesterday, it is now a thing of the past. So we're kind of locked in the cooler temperatures. We're not going to have much of a rebound today, as we'll only get up into the low to mid 60s, about as good as we'll see. But perhaps more importantly than the temperatures is the rain kicking to the east. Go, 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 please, please, please. By the time we get into the late afternoon, early evening hours, we will be done. And once we are done, we're not going to have anything reemerge on Friday. Nothing's going to pop up. Nothing's going to come get us from the south. Gulf moisture, the trough of the jet stream, everything's moving to the east right now.
All right.
So we're getting there. Minute by minute, we're getting closer.
Almost there. Light at the end of the tunnel.
Crazy.
Sunshine is our light, which is what I'm looking forward to.
And here's the thing. You go back historically, we're talking about this being the 4th wettest May on record historically. If you go back and look at what's in that top 4, 3 years ago, 2019 is in that top 4.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I got.
All right, thanks, Michael. Oklahoma authorities say they've shut down what they call a large methamphetamine trafficking organization in northeast Oklahoma. Officers with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics say the Bartlesville Police Department served 13 arrest warrants, seized more than 35 pounds of meth, and nearly 100 guns. The OBN says the traffickers shipped anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds of meth into northeastern Oklahoma from the West Coast on a weekly basis. They say those shipments would then be moved onto the streets in Washington County, Nowata County, and parts of Kansas. You can find much more on this case at KOAMnewsnow.com. Recurring flooding problems in the Miami, Oklahoma area have led to detention and legal battles involving the city, property owners, and the Grand River Dam Authority for years. And now the city has scheduled a town hall meeting to address some of the issues, including the GRDA's operation of the Pensacola Dam. That meeting will be on June 10th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Coleman Theater in Miami. Among those attending will be city and community leaders, legal counsel, and experts. The city says the meeting will include updates on some legal disputes and opportunities for public comment and questions. A team of researchers at the University of Missouri has been using wastewater samples throughout the pandemic to gain a better insight of what COVID-19 cases look like throughout the state. And now, as KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky explains, they're using it to see what other illnesses are present in our communities as well.
While researchers can't see into the future, they may have a faster way to see when COVID-19 and other diseases emerge in the area. It may be a little gross, but it also may be the easiest.
Poop doesn't lie, so we can always figure out what's really going on.
Mark Johnson, a professor at the University of Missouri's School of Medicine, has been working on the sewer shed project since May of 2020. The team of wastewater operators throughout Missouri collect samples to send to Johnson's office.
We take this little sample that we extract the RNA from, just like you would in a clinical lab, and we use qPCR, the same kind that, the PCR test that you use to test if you're infected. The only difference is we do it in such a way that we can say not only whether it's present, but how much is present.
It's already helped out local health departments generate a better understanding of diseases present in the community.
I get a report of watershed testing, and it's helpful in the fact that I can kind of anticipate what's coming.
Bergner says he thinks it could be helpful when dealing with other endemic diseases as well.
Any virus can be tested in the sewer shed, so whether it's flu or any other type of virus, avian bird flu, some of those other types that we've seen through the years, we're starting to get technology where we can kind of see that in the sewer shed, and then we can anticipate and prepare for it. So it is a very helpful tool.
With the way samples are collected, it could paint a clearer picture of what's actually spreading throughout communities.
This isn't the only, readout that health departments get, but it's a good, reliable one that's not affected by your typical factors.
In Newton County, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Samples throughout the state are collected 1 to 2 times per week. Here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
All right, Tanya, 7-day forecast. We're going to work backwards on this one once again because I want everybody to be reminded that the Memorial Day weekend is going to be great. But before we get there, we've still got to battle one more morning of very, very good rainfall. But now as you work out to the west, even though it's going to kick back a little bit from the north, counterclockwise motion, the farther west you get, the quicker that you're going to be done. Some of our far western counties there are actually just going to get almost sprinkles for the rest of the morning. Of course, eastern portion of southwest Missouri, it's going to be a while, not until the afternoon before all the rain is out of here.
This morning, we're discussing voting. On Tuesday, 5 states went to the polls to vote in primary elections. Most eyes were on Georgia as the incumbent governor, Brian Kemp, fought off a challenge from Trump-backed opponent, former Senator David Perdue. And many of the Trump-backed candidates failed in their bids for election, with the one big exception of football legend Herschel Walker. His win for the Republican nomination sets up a showdown in November with Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock. Now, these are party primaries in other states, so the appeal may not be there for some. But if primaries are your thing, Kansas and Missouri hold theirs in August. And of course, Oklahoma's is set for June 28th.
All right, our question is, how often do you vote? Is it local? Is it primaries, national, all of the above? Perhaps none of the above. Right now, Tanya, 78% say take part in each and every election that they can. 22%, the remaining 22% say national elections. Each and every morning, KOAMNewsNow.com/vote or through our Facebook page, KOAM News Now.
All right, that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, Russia continues to step up its assault on cities in eastern Ukraine. Plus, we'll take a look at what's coming to streaming and theaters this weekend, just in time for the holiday. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch, El Salvador has extended its state of emergency 30 more days in an effort to combat gang violence. Lawmakers there approved the move on Thursday, according to the Assembly's official website. This is the second time the measure has been extended. Officials argue the effort has helped security forces capture 35,000 accused terrorists. But international human rights groups criticize the emergency provision, saying they suspend the right to privacy and lead to arbitrary arrest. State of emergency first went into effect on March 26th. Russian artillery is hitting Ukrainian cities in the east around the clock, hoping to expand the eastern offensive, which remains largely stalled. Greg Palcott has more.
Russia intensifies its efforts to surround Ukrainian cities on day 91 of the war. The Russians still pushing their eastern offensive along a narrow front, but they appear to have given up on a large-scale encirclement of the Donbass region. Instead, they're using scorched earth tactics to pound individual cities, hoping to take them one by one.
Israel, first, everyday shelling. Second, a lot of death. Third, humanitarian problems.
Progress has been slow on the ground, and Moscow is admitting for the first time the eastern offensive is behind schedule. Russia's defense minister claims it's because his forces are trying to avoid civilian casualties. Despite mounting evidence, the Russians are actively targeting civilians, and in cities on the front lines, the situation is only expected to get worse.
This is a tense moment in the war, with a lot of blood of innocent people and civilians and a lot of military losses.
Meanwhile, the U.S. is ramping up the economic pressure on Moscow, banning American banks from processing bond payments from Russia, essentially forcing the Russians to default on billions of dollars in debt. The Treasury Department is calling on other allies to do the same, saying it's a key step in the plan to hold Vladimir Putin accountable.
Our joint efforts are critical to help ensure Ukraine's democracy prevails over Putin's aggression.
New Zealand's Prime Minister is sharing what her country's government did to enact sensible gun reform after a mass shooting. Jacinda Ardern is in the U.S. on a trade mission. That talk quickly turned following the mass killing of 19 children and 2 teachers at a Texas elementary school. Ardern spoke with Democratic and Republican politicians in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday about her actions following the 2019 mosque shootings in Christchurch. Ardern and New Zealand have been praised for passing stricter gun laws within days of the tragedy. French president denounces Texas shooting as cowardly attack in condolence message. French President Emmanuel Macron expressed his condolence over the Texas school shooting on Wednesday, calling the killing a cowardly attack. 19 victims were under the age of 10. Children and teachers were murdered in a cowardly attack in their Texas school, Macron said in a tweet. We share the shock and grief of the American people and the rage of those who are fighting to end the violence. And Pope Francis is offering his prayers and condolences after Tuesday's mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Speaking on the tragedy during his morning weekly audience on Wednesday, the Pope said, quote, "My heart is broken." He called for more harsh gun controls and a commitment to help prevent attacks like this from happening in the future. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Oklahoma authorities say they've shut down what they call a large methamphetamine trafficking organization in northeast Oklahoma. Officers with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and the Bartlesville Police Department served 13 arrest warrants, seized more than 35 pounds of methamphetamine and nearly 100 guns. OBN says the traffickers shipped anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds of meth into northeastern Oklahoma from the West Coast on a weekly basis. They say those shipments would then be moved onto the streets in Washington County, Nowata County, and parts of Kansas. You can find much more on this case at KOAMnewsnow.com. Delaware County detention officer is arrested, accused of smuggling contraband into the county jail. Anthony Coronel faces charges of bribery, official misconduct, 2 counts of introducing contraband into a penal institution, and possession with intent to distribute. Court documents show an investigation launched after the jail administrator learned about the contraband being smuggled. Recurring flooding problems in the Miami, Oklahoma area lead to tension and legal battles involving the city. property owners and the Grand River Dam Authority for years. And now the city has scheduled a town hall meeting to address some of the issues, including the GRDA's operation of the Pensacola Dam. That meeting will be June 10th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Coleman Theater in Miami. Among those attending will be city and community leaders, legal counsel, and experts. The city says the meeting will include updates on some legal disputes and opportunities for public comment and questions. On Wednesday, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt signs into law the nation's strictest abortion ban, making the state the first in the nation to effectively end availability of the procedure. State lawmakers approved the ban enforced by civil lawsuits rather than criminal prosecution, similar to a Texas law that was passed last year. The law takes effect immediately upon Stitt's signature and prohibits all abortions with few exceptions. Abortion providers have said they will stop performing the procedure as soon as the bill is signed. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
I want to focus in here on Jasper and Newton counties because we've got one that's going to really drop some hard rain that's headed right now toward Carthage, and then we've got one just on the north side of Neosho. Remember, farther west you get, you're getting better for the day. We'll break down the flood warnings and watches right after this.
An action sequel and an animated comedy lead new releases this Memorial Day weekend. Here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
Memorial Day weekend brings a long-awaited sequel and a couple highly anticipated series. In theaters nationwide is Top Gun Maverick, following up the 1986 classic. Tom Cruise is back in the pilot seat, training Top Gun graduates for a new mission. Among those joining him for the action are Miles Teller, Jennifer Connelly, and John Hamm. Ta-da! Stars of one of Fox's animated series are on the big screen in the Bob's Burgers movie. When a ruptured water main creates a sinkhole, it's up to Bob, Linda, and the rest of the Belcher family to save the business.
You still want Kenobi?
On streaming, Disney Plus adds Obi-Wan Kenobi. The series is set 10 years after Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan faces Anakin Skywalker turned Darth Vader. Ewan McGregor is the Jedi Master, and Hayden Christensen returns to the role of Darth Vader.
You've broken everything.
Netflix drops Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 1, 5 hours longer than any previous season. The Hawkins friends are separated for the first time when the latest supernatural threat surfaces, and their mystery solving could close the door on the Upside Down.
Hawkins is cursed.
Stranger Things Season 4 is the next to last season in the series. It's split in 2 parts, with Volume 2 premiering July 1st. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
And earlier this week, we mentioned Thor coming back to the big screen. The latest Marvel film, Thor, Love and Thunder, stars Chris Hemsworth in the title role and is the sequel to 2017's Thor Ragnarok. The cast also includes Christian Bale as the film's villain, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, of course, and Natalie Portman as Jane Foster. We were waiting for her return. Director Taika Waititi says this movie is the most crazy thing he's ever done and has hinted it will feature plot points that hardcore fans of the series will enjoy. Thor: Love and Thunder is set to hit theaters July 8th. As we mentioned earlier, there's a new streaming series debuting this week. I'm so excited about this. It takes place in a galaxy far, far away. Rick Damigella reports.
The fight is done. We lost.
Ewan McGregor returns to the role he made famous on the big screen in the Disney Plus series Obi-Wan Kenobi, set in the years between Star Wars Episodes 3 and 4.
Leave us alone. When the time comes, he must be trained. Like you trained his father.
Having Ewan McGregor come back to this role at this point, he just brings such a sensitivity and such a soul to the role that it just felt like the right time for this story as well.
Deborah Chow, who previously helmed episodes of Mr. Robot, Better Call Saul, and The Mandalorian, directed the 6-part series.
It was really exciting to kind of come back to Tatooine despite all the sand. But the other thing that we did and that we felt strongly about doing in this series is that one thing I've always loved about Star Wars is getting to go to new planets and getting to meet new creatures and new everything.
I want every lowlife and bounty hunter to squeeze him.
Moses Ingram's character is among those hunting Obi-Wan.
She's a subordinate of Darth Vader, and very passionate about her job. You know, she plays the offense. She's on a team of Inquisitors, but she doesn't care what anybody thinks about how she does things.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
We'll be back with another look at your forecast after this.
All right, well, let's pay attention to what we've got here. Well, 80% of the 4 states at least has some type of shower activity. This one I want to point out that's headed toward I-49 and is going to clip the north part of Carthage as well. It's going to be about some real heavy rain falling down right there. And with the way this thing's turning over, probably going to make it up to Jasper as well. And then we've got another one pushing right on Highway 59, just on the south side of I-44. The one from Mount Vernon up toward Greenfield, that's receded down to the south, so we're looking better right there. When we come back, we got to update these flood warnings when we return.
Governor Stitt signs into law the country's strictest abortion ban.
Now that we've got the circular motion of our rain, we are getting closer to it finally being dry. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch weather center.
And a former reality TV star is sentenced for child pornography.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's now 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Buck. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Key factor of all our Gulf moisture is that it finally came to a pause last night out to the west, and once it came to that stop, then it began the circular motion that we're seeing right there. It's a 5-hour loop, so everything starts out to the west and then it continues to turn over on itself. That means it's headed toward central Missouri. That being said, we've still got some very heavy rain coming down, especially in Jasper County and Newton County. I want to pay attention to this one. It's going to kind of cut in between Carthage and Jasper, clip both of those places, and then the Mount Vernon exit on 44, stretching up toward Greenfield as well. As you push off to the west, you're not only getting a break, but probably just about done for the day. Spotty showers after that is what we'll see. Now, we do have to talk about some flood warnings and advisories. I will say we'll go with advisories. And we'll start with our rivers up to the north because we have another one to involve in this mix. We had the Osage and Little Osage for most of this week. Now we've got the Marmonton River involved in that as well. Those are flood warnings. So remember, in order of operations from most severe to least severe, warning, watch, and then advisory. And that's what we have for the Neosho River down in Ottawa County, where we have a flood advisory lasting until tomorrow. When we talk about what we've got future track-wise, we got to lock in for the rest of the morning. It's going to stick around with us. But then, as we get into the afternoon, the circle makes its way into central Missouri. And we'll be done with it by the evening hours, setting us up for a Memorial Day weekend that's going to bring us sunny skies and temperatures that are going to be up into the 80s. So that's not too bad at all. If we can just hold on here for, say, about 7-8 more hours, we'll get a much deserved break.
All right. Well, I am thankful that there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to be going into a nice weekend. We just get through one more day of this.
'Tis about time. I'm ready for May and rain to go away.
For sure. Hard to believe. June is almost here. All it did was rain in May.
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah.
I did find a 3-day span. I looked at 3 different airports yesterday and kind of compared them every day for the first 25 days of May. The most I could find was a 3-day span where there was no precipitation.
And somehow, throughout the month of May, I was able to get my yard mowed twice.
Nobody's blaming you for this one, trust me.
Oh, mine got done before this last
I go to the
time.
grocery store, I can feel the glares. I feel you people, I feel when you stare at me in the bread aisle. I'm just trying to find some sourdough, okay? I feel you.
All right, thanks, Michael. On Wednesday, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt signed into law the nation's strictest abortion ban, making the state the first in the nation to effectively end availability of the procedure. State lawmakers approved the ban, enforced by civil lawsuits rather than criminal prosecution, similar to the Texas law that had been passed. The law takes effect immediately upon Stitt's signature and prohibits all abortions with few exceptions. Abortion providers have said they will stop performing the procedure as soon as the bill is signed. Oklahoma authorities say they've shut down what they call a large methamphetamine trafficking organization in northeast Oklahoma. Officers with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and the Bartlesville Police Department yesterday served 13 arrest warrants, seized more than 35 pounds of methamphetamine and nearly 100 guns. The OBN says the traffickers shipped anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds of meth into northeastern Oklahoma from the West Coast on a weekly basis. They say those shipments would then be moved onto the streets in Washington County, Nowata County, and parts of Kansas. You can find much more on this case on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Lawsuit alleges a Barton County jailer bartered with inmates for sexual favors. In the suit, a woman who was an inmate claims she and others were sexually abused and deprived of rights at the Barton County, Missouri jail by Deputy Antonio Azua. Her accuser claims during her 3 times as an inmate from 2018 to 2019, she had to barter for more humane conditions or special privileges. Plaintiff also claims she was raped by Azua while she was shackled, and she had to perform a sexual favor in order to drink water out of a sanitary container. Defendants in the case have filed a response denying the allegations. Delaware County detention officer is arrested accused of smuggling contraband into the county jail. Anthony Coronel faces charges of bribery, official misconduct, 2 counts of introducing contraband into a penal institution, and possession with intent to distribute. Court documents show an investigation was launched after the jail administrator learned about the contraband being smuggled. Former reality TV stars sentenced for child pornography in Arkansas. A judge sentences Josh Duggar to 12 years in prison after he was convicted for receiving and possessing child pornography. He was arrested in 2021 after a Little Rock police detective found child porn files shared by a computer traced to Duggar. U.S. District Judge denied Duggar of a new trial. Recurring flooding problems in the Miami, Oklahoma area have led to tension and legal battles involving the city, property owners, and the Grand River Dam Authority for years. And now the city has scheduled a town hall meeting to address some of the issues, including the GRDA's operation of the Pensacola Dam. That meeting will be on June 10th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Coleman Theater in Miami. Among those attending will be city and community leaders, legal counsel, and experts. The city says the meeting will include updates on some legal disputes and opportunities for public comments and questions. An organization that helps traumatized children is celebrating 25 years of service. On Wednesday, the Children's Center of Southwest Missouri hosted a presentation and get-together. The center first opened its Joplin doors in 1997. Since then, staff has provided services and care to more than 20,500 families experiencing abuse.
But I think it's also a better job that we've done of getting education out to our community to know that child abuse is not okay. Used to, child abuse was kind of a taboo subject that nobody wanted to talk about, and I think now more people are willing to talk about that and acknowledge that it's not okay.
Besides Joplin, the Children's Center of Southwest Missouri also serves Monette, Butler, and Nevada. Today, back in 1897, Dracula goes on sale. The first copies of the classic vampire novel Dracula by Irish writer Bram Stoker appeared in London bookshops. Now, Stoker grew up to become a soccer star at Trinity College in Dublin, and after his graduation, he got a job in civil service at Dublin Castle. He worked there for the next 10 years while writing drama reviews for the Dublin Mail on the side. In this way, Stoker met the well-respected actor Sir Henry Irving, who hired him as his manager. Stoker stayed in this position for most of the next 3 decades. Over the years, Stoker began writing a number of horror stories for magazines, and in 1890, he published his first novel, The Snake's Pass. Stoker would go on to publish 17 novels in all, but it was the 1897 novel Dracula that would eventually earn him literary fame and become known as a masterpiece of Victorian-era Gothic literature.
Such a weird thing to say, but it was my introduction to the name Mina, and I fell in love with it.
Ah,
I was not
It's an
familiar.
interesting thing to take from Dracula.
I remember reading it. I read it as a kid, and I had never heard of a female named Mina, which, as I've gotten older, I understand it's not a common name, but I fell in love with that name.
There you go.
Sorry, Caitlin Nicole. It almost happened. Caitlin's choices were Mina and Hepzibah. Silas Marner.
Hepzibah?
Well, and Tess from Thomas Hardy's Tess of the Ubervilles. You can tell what road I was going down with her name. All right, Skywatch Storm Tracker. Once again, we're watching this one right in between Carthage and Lamar. It's backed off just a little bit. Get out to the west. You're going to have a break. For those of you in the central and eastern portion of the 4 states, now we still got several hours left.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, if it's Thursday, that means it's time for Chef Anthony to fire up the grill for a Memorial Day cookout. You're going to be stoked about what we're making for sure. Plus, more details on the tragic school shooting in Texas that claimed the lives of 19 children and why lowering your blood sugar may help you get pregnant. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, a statue of George Floyd was unveiled in Houston's Tom Bass Park on Wednesday, the second anniversary of Floyd's death. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was convicted of second-degree murder for killing Floyd May 25th of 2020. Floyd's killing sparked nationwide protests and new calls for police reform. Floyd grew up in Houston's 3rd Ward and was buried in Houston next to his mother. The Floyd Family Foundation involved in the creation of the $110,000 sculpture. 500,000 fentanyl pills are off the streets after a drug bust in Arizona. Happened Monday about an hour south of Phoenix. Police stopped an SUV for speeding and then say a canine officer and his handler discovered 500,000 pills concealed in vitamin supplement bottles along with a handgun and large amount of cash. 31-year-old Martha Lopez and 30-year-old Tanya Luna Solis were arrested. They face several charges, including possession, importation of narcotic drugs for sale, child endangerment, and misconduct involving weapons. 2 minors were found inside the SUV at the time of the women's arrests. They're now in custody of the Arizona Department of Child Safety. Many questions remain about how or why the school shooting in Texas unfolded. Investigators say the shooter had no known criminal or mental health history. Residents left mourning their loved ones and friends, the 19 children and 2 teachers who lost their lives. Danye Bacchus is in Uvalde with the latest.
Officials in Uvalde, Texas are still searching for a motive in Tuesday's school shooting, but we are learning more about the gunman's final moments.
There was no known mental health history.
Governor Greg Abbott said the 18-year-old sent private online messages just before his rampage at Robb Elementary.
The first post was, "I'm going to shoot my grandmother." The second post was, "I shot my grandmother." The third post, "I'm going to shoot an elementary school."
The grandmother is recovering in the hospital. People who knew the gunman say he was antisocial and dropped out of school recently.
Really wouldn't think it'd be him either, especially, but at the same time I would.
Crosses outside of Robb Elementary School have the names of the 19 children and 2 teachers who lost their lives. While the investigation continues, residents of this small town are searching for a way forward.
She tried to grab her phone and call the cops.
Angel Garcia takes comfort in the fact that his stepdaughter, A. Marie, tried to call 911 as the gunman opened fire in her class, but he isn't hopeful that things will change.
I just want my baby home. I don't care. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about...
In Washington, Democrats are pressing for new gun control measures.
We're cowards if we don't act. Cowards.
Though Republicans appear poised to block any legislation.
Any firearm is potentially dangerous in the hands of a deranged lunatic.
President Biden is expected to travel to Uvalde in the coming days. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Uvalde, Texas.
The 18-year-old shooter had legally purchased 2 assault rifles and almost 400 rounds of ammunition earlier this month, shortly after his 18th birthday. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back after this.
There comes.
All right.
We are outside the KOAM studios this morning, moving our test kitchen to our carport here to do a little grilling this morning. Chef Anthony is joining us from Pittsburgh High School, and we brought a guest with you today as well.
Yes, I brought Madison. Madison is one of my students. She's taking all of my classes. She's a wonderful addition, and she is the second generation member of Culinary Club.
That's awesome.
Her sister was a founding member.
Well, welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning, Madison. I'm so excited about today. We've got an assortment of vegetables we're going to be cooking on the grill. We've got brats, we've got burgers, something called a flaming monkey burger.
Oh yes, the flaming monkey burger is a play, is Southern Market's play on the traditional gorilla burger that's available all over Pittsburgh. So they wanted to do something different, some hot, some spicy, some pepper jack cheese, some jalapenos. Very good, one of my favorites.
Yummy, yummy, yummy. And then you said there's the brats are pretty
We
good
have,
too.
oh yes, we have all sorts of brats. We have Bavarian, mango habanero, jalapeno cheddar, traditional jalapeno and pineapple, a cheese brat, and then a traditional pineapple brat. So we have a huge selection of brats that we're going to be doing today to show you. And all of them are all made in Pittsburgh at Southern Market, and he uses premium ingredients. He told me that he only uses pork guts to make his brats. And they are insanely good.
Okay, so from what I understand, Southern Market's normally opened on the weekend, but this is a holiday weekend, so if you want to take advantage of some of these meats, you need to get there today or tomorrow.
Yes, you need to get there today or tomorrow. Of course, just like everyone else, they're going to try to enjoy their holiday weekend, hence the barbecue. And Memorial Day is the kick-off the barbecue season.
All right, so we've got the grill set up here for you. What are we going to be?
We're going to do some zucchini and some squash on the grill, and we're going to do a few other items along with all the burgers and the brats that we're going to be doing here today. And we're going to show you some of the ways to prep and get ready to go for this, because most people, they put their brats on and they burn. Or the casing falls apart on them. So we're going to show you some techniques to help make sure that your barbecue this weekend goes off without a hitch.
Okay, and I noticed you brought in some special seasoning to rub here.
That is mangoes and dried habaneros and freeze-dried mangoes ground together to create a mango habanero spice. It's sweet, it's spicy, it's right up your alley.
Oh, I'm excited about that.
And that's going to debut out to the general public in use later in June.
Really?
We'll talk about that later.
Okay, I'm excited about
So
that.
I'm getting excited. And I even brought some special new coarse sea salt that I'm excited to use. We're going to use that on our vegetables. And what I'm doing is I'm putting our vegetables into sticks, because being on a grill, you don't want to cut it into small pieces because then it'll fall through your grates. But if you coat it in if you make it cut it into sticks like this, then it's easier to manage.
Then you can, put them horizontal across the grates too.
But what we want to do is we want to cut out the spongy parts of our zucchini and squash, because this spongy part cooks really fast, and then it also has a textural problem for a lot of people when they eat it. Well, I don't like squash because it's soggy. Well,
it's all edible, but the part that you're wanting to grill is not the spongy.
Yes, you can eat the whole thing, but most people, they don't like the spongy part because that's what detracts from its texture. So we're going to cut it off of the spongy part. I'm going to show you how to do that this morning. But I have a pot of water here, and what I'm doing is I've got boiling water in it, and I have, for every cup of water, you want to use 3 ounces of beer. Doesn't matter what kind you use, it helps with the collagen in natural cased broths like this. So I'm going to take my brats, and very gently lay them into the water.
So do you always boil your brats before you grill them then?
Yes, it helps keep the skins from bursting on the grill.
Okay.
So I don't have to worry about that.
You were telling me that these are natural casings as well.
Yes. So, and that makes a big difference. Natural cased brat always comes out better. It has a better crunch, it has a better snap, a better texture than the synthetic ones.
Okay.
So let's talk about our vegetables real quick. And all I'm doing is I'm cutting the end off on both sides. And I'm going to cut down one side, and then roll it, cut it down, roll it, all the way around.
Is there a culinary name for this type of cut that you're doing?
No, not really. There really isn't. These are just traditional prep cuts.
Okay.
So I've cut out the spongy part. I'm going to set it to the side. I'm going to make sure that my cuts are pretty close to the same so that they cook evenly all the way through. So I have all that. I'm going to throw them in my bowl.
And I noticed you're leaving the peel on.
Leaving the peel on because it adds a nice little textural change, gives a nice variety to it. And then I'm going to add a little bit of oil, which is a butter oil mix, has a very high smoke point. And I'm going to give it a toss. Make sure everything's coated. And then some of my new salt.
Nice.
Right in. And you can always tell if you have the right salt for what you're doing, because you want to see the salt on your product when you're grilling. And as you can see the salt crystals right on it. Now I'm going to add a little bit of my seasoning. This is not going to take much.
Yeah, you're not putting much on at all. It's a little chilly out here this morning, but come Memorial Day, it's supposed to be much warmer and less rainy, so hopefully everyone will get to enjoy the outdoors.
I hope so. It's going to be a good weekend.
Yeah.
So there we have our vegetables. They're oiled, they're coated, and they're seasoned. They're ready to go.
All right.
So I have my brats over here on heat, and I'm just checking. And that
How long are you going to boil them? And you don't have it at a very...
No, I do not. It only takes 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
So you get them pretty much cooked most of the way through this way, then you won't burn the outside, trying to push to the middle of the broth.
Right. You have more even cooked that way with that pretty grill texture.
Exactly.
All right.
And when it gets to be looking about like this, then you know you're done.
All right, so you're going to go ahead and cut up some brats for cooking and finish cutting up the vegetables. We're going to see you back here on KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, where we're going to actually fire up the grill and cook our meat, cook our brats, cook our flaming monkey burgers and our veggies, and have a Memorial Weekend grill out feast.
Of course.
Looking forward to it.
We should.
Will you join us again too? Sounds great. We will be right back.
West. Topping Health Watch this morning, new research shows once a state legalizes recreational cannabis, residents are more likely to start using the drug. A study of more than 20,000 Americans published in the journal Addiction looked at 4 states where recreational marijuana is permitted. Researchers finding more people started using pot when it was legalized, including those too young to legally do so. Breastfeeding for longer periods of time now associated with higher cognitive test scores later in childhood. That's according to British researchers who followed nearly 8,000 infants up until the age of 14. They found that longer breastfeeding was associated with higher verbal and reasoning scores at all ages. And women who struggle with infertility because of obesity may benefit from lowering their blood sugar levels. That's a study in the Journal of Endocrinology. Found that using a common type 2 diabetes medication to lower blood sugar in pregnant mice improved body weight and normalized the reproductive cycle. Hormones and ovulation were also partially restored. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. We'll be right back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Coming up, Governor Stitt signs into law the country's strictest abortion ban.
We've got one more day, but before we get there, we also have to update our flood warnings. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a former reality TV star is sentenced for child pornography.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:31. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Also get to our radar in just a moment, but I want to start with the flood warnings and the advisory that we do have in effect. Flood warnings because we have an additional river that has now been added. While we had the Osage and Little Osage throughout the course of this week, the Marmonton River up in Vernon County, now a part of our flood warnings that last all the way until Sunday. Everything being as widespread as it is, the fact that we're talking about 3 rivers and then a flood advisory for the Neosho down in Ottawa County, I think we probably should consider ourselves lucky because we do see pockets of 4.5 inches of rain if we go back, say, Saturday up until our current date. Here's where we sit currently on the radar. We've lost our pockets of yellow that were affecting, it was going to affect Jasper County and then roll up into Barton County. That kind of died down a little bit, so that's great news. Slowly but surely, we're seeing the majority of the rain work its way east of our highlighted counties. Get out to the west, we've got a little spotty activity that's going to kick back because remember, it's got counterclockwise motion on it. But it's an indicator that we are getting just a tad bit closer with each and every passing moment. Still do have rain coming down at 7th and Range Line, and will so for the next several hours. 54 degrees right now. Temperatures, say about 51 to 56. It's been pretty stagnant. Here we go. Get out of here and get out of here by say 4 o'clock at the latest. And look at that, out to the west, it's going to end much earlier. Then it hangs on, and then we get ready for a Friday. We won't know what to do with ourselves on Friday. It's going to be in the 70s. There's going to be sunshine, and there's not going to be rain. I'm going to come to the morning show tomorrow, look at the radar, and do that can't be right.
Well,
there won't be any green on the radar tomorrow.
that's going to be nice.
Thank goodness.
It's going to be nice.
It has been
at least one day this week, yeah.
It's been interesting because I call ourselves sometimes weather prisoners of the moment. And for this week, it hasn't been any joke. I'm not making light of it whatsoever. But if you go back to the beginning of May, what was that, the 2nd and 3rd? No, 3rd and 4th. We had consecutive days where we picked up 3 inches on both those days. And so that's why May has just been such a bear for us precipitation-wise. We started the month that way. We're ending the month that way. At least we have a Memorial Day weekend that everybody can enjoy.
Yeah.
A lot of people are still cleaning up from earlier this month.
The Saturday rain, are we looking at morning or evening or?
Evening to night, scattered light.
Okay, all right. I'll take that.
Yeah, it is of no words.
My kids are looking to get some pool time in on Saturday, so.
You can get that.
Yeah.
You're going to want to get that because that's a 20-degree jump up from where we're going to be today into Saturday.
And they got tomorrow for the water to warm up.
We just got tomorrow for sunshine.
Yeah.
Convince myself that the sun actually exists. Hello, glow cloud.
Yeah, and dry up your yard. That'll be nice. All right, thanks, Michael. Oklahoma authorities say they've shut down what they call a large methamphetamine trafficking organization in northeast Oklahoma. Officers with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and the Bartlesville Police Department served 13 arrest warrants, seized more than 35 pounds of meth and nearly 100 guns. The OBN says the traffickers shipped anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds of meth into northeastern Oklahoma from the West Coast on a weekly basis. They say those shipments would then be moved onto the streets in Washington County, Nowata County, and parts of Kansas. You can find much more in this case on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. On Wednesday, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt signed into law the nation's strictest abortion ban, making the state the first in the nation to effectively end availability of the procedure. State lawmakers approved the ban enforced by civil lawsuits rather than criminal prosecution, similar to Texas law that was passed last year. The law takes effect immediately upon Stitt's signature and prohibits all abortions with few exceptions. Abortion providers have said they will stop performing the procedure as soon as the bill is signed. Lawsuit alleges a Barton County jailer bartered with inmates for sexual favors. In the suit, a woman who is an inmate claims she and others were sexually abused and deprived of rights at the Barton County, Missouri jail by Deputy Antonio Azua. Her accuser claims during her 3 times as an inmate from 2018 to 2019, she had to barter for more humane conditions or special privileges. Plaintiff also claims she was raped by Azua while she was shackled, and she had to perform a sexual favor in order to drink water out of a sanitary container. Defendants in the case have filed a response denying the allegations. Delaware County detention officer is arrested, accused of smuggling contraband into the county jail. Anthony Coronel faces charges of bribery, official misconduct, 2 counts of introducing contraband into a penal institution, and possession with intent to distribute. Court documents show an investigation launched after the jail administrator learned about the contraband being smuggled. And a former reality TV star is sentenced for child pornography in Arkansas. Judge sentences Josh Duggar to 12 years in prison after he was convicted for receiving and possessing child pornography. He was arrested in 2021 after a Little Rock police detective found child porn files shared by a computer traced to Duggar. U.S. District Judge denied Duggar of a new trial. Recurring flooding problems in the Miami, Oklahoma area lead to tension and legal battles involving the city property owners and the Grand River Dam Authority for years. And now the city has scheduled a town hall meeting to address some of those issues, including the GRDA's operation of the Pensacola Dam. That meeting will be on June 10th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Coleman Theater in Miami. Among those attending will be city and community leaders, legal counsel, and experts. City says the meeting will include updates on some legal disputes and opportunities for public comments and questions. Local organization that helps traumatized children is celebrating 25 years of service. On Wednesday, the Children's Center of Southwest Missouri hosted a presentation and get-together. Center first opened its Joplin doors in 1997. Since that time, staff has provided services and care to more than 20,500 physically and sexually abused families.
A bigger problem with child abuse, but I think it's also a better job that we've done of getting education out to our community to know that child abuse is not okay. Used to, child abuse was kind of a taboo subject that nobody wanted to talk about, and I think now more people are willing to talk about that and acknowledge that it's not okay.
Besides Joplin, the Children's Center of Southwest Missouri also serves Monette, Butler, and Nevada. Historic Carver League building in Pittsburgh is getting some much-needed renovations, and Pitt State student Zach Burris is serving as construction manager. Burris is a School of Construction major. The building is getting new foundation supports, new walls, and a roof, and a new HVAC system.
Really, it was the challenge of it. So the renovation, taking an old building that needs completely gutted and redone and trying to make something good out of it. So the challenge of figuring out what's going on with the structure and how I can make it almost new again.
Carver Building was an important gathering place for the black community in the 1950s. They would get together there because of segregation. Workers at Joplin Brewery are doing what they can to help Ukrainians affected by war. Chaos Brewing is using a recipe for a Ukrainian beer and donating proceeds from every draft poured to Ukrainian humanitarian efforts.
There's a brewery in Ukraine that created the recipe. It's kind of a unique story. They released it to the Brewers Association. It's kind of been put out across the whole country. One of our other owners suggested that we jump in and brew it, so we did. We jumped right in.
Chaos Brewing is at 112 South Main Street in Joplin. Today, back in 2016, a set of stamps celebrating 50 years of Pink Floyd unveiled by the Royal Mail. 10 stamps, which would be available the following month, marked 5 decades since the band turned professional. Collection included the band's most famous album covers, including Dark Side of the Moon, as well as live performance shots.
So, since it was issued by the Royal Mail, it was actually a combination of Queen and Pink Floyd.
I thought that when these I thought we said the other day that stamps could not have living people in them.
No, I thought it was.
If they were issued by the Royal Mail. And that's why
I do remember that being part of that story.
That's why there was that big discussion, because there were band members of part of Queen that were in the background.
I don't know, maybe all the well, no, the stamps look like. I was just going to say we could just put Syd Barrett on every stamp. Sorry about that, Ron.
Apparently they let a lot of it
slide.
So
Tanya and I have a new rule when it comes to this day in history. It involves music. I will give you Comfortably Numb, I will give you Wish You Were Here, and I will give you Another Brick in the Wall, Part D. The question being, which of those three would Tanya want to rock out in her car to for Pink Floyd?
Comfortably Numb. We're going to go with
Can't
that
beat
one.
it.
We're going to go with that one.
I thought those were 3 bangers right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take that.
All right.
The artwork on those albums, though.
I was actually going to say something about album covers, and maybe that's how they were able to pull it off. But I don't want to speak to the Royal Mail. I am not getting in trouble with the Royals, folks.
See, they had it. See, I don't know. I don't know if that. Maybe they made that rule up afterwards or something. But it does make sense.
I could get in a fight like with a million people in this world, and Tanya would have my back every single time, unless it was with the castle. In that case, she's going to side with them. And I know this.
I'm going to look into when they made this rule because I feel like I'm telling our viewers something conflicting.
But you're right. No, that did
bothers
come
me.
up.
'Cause we did say that the other day.
It did come up with the Freddie
Queen.
Mercury stamps.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Skywatch storm tracker still. We got the rain coming down. We've lost our patches of yellow and orange that we had earlier. Still, that's going to be consistent shower activity. Out to the west, it's getting better and better as the hours go along. But remember, we're still going to have to ride this out till about 2, 3 o'clock this afternoon.
All right, that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, the White House looks to shut down a mining project in Alaska. Plus, voting is an important process. It's why there's campaigns for it even. And today we want to know, how often do you vote? You like to weigh in? We'll be right back. This morning, the Federal Reserve is preparing to raise interest rates higher than expected in order to fight inflation. Minutes from the central bank's meeting earlier this month show the committee members believe a series of half-point increases will likely be needed. Higher interest rates tend to slow consumer and business spending. White House is working to ban a controversial mining project from an Alaskan watershed. The Pebble Mine project would mine Bristol Bay for copper and gold deposits. But if finalized, the EPA's proposal would protect the bay, which supports a $2 billion commercial fishing industry and is home to valuable sockeye salmon. Oreo and Ritz crackers are teaming up for a sweet and salty mashup. For a limited time, beginning today, fans of the snacks can order this half cookie, half cracker online for free, plus a shipping fee. The treat's stuffing is half cream, half peanut butter. They're available until June 5th or when all 1,000 packs are gone. Or you could just buy a box of each and make them yourself. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning we're discussing the primary elections that just took place yesterday. But our question for you this morning is, how often do you vote? Whether it be local, primary, national. Right now, 74% of you say it is indeed all of the above, followed by 18% that say just national. 18% of you, or 8% of you, do say no, actually don't take part. You can take part each and every morning. You can actually vote, as a matter of fact. We should have put Instapoll as one of those. That'd be great. Local, primaries, national, all the above, or just the Instapoll. KOAMNewsNow.com/vote or connect to us via our Facebook page at KOAM News Now. Come back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. But first, off to the Big Apple. Let's check in with Nate.
I'm Nate Burleson. Coming up on CBS Mornings, we'll be joined by actor Jesse Williams, who earned a Tony nomination in his Broadway debut for the play Take Me Out. That's coming up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, aviation's machinist mate, third class, Claude Spencer. The Webb City, Missouri native joined the Navy back in 1943, received an honorable discharge in 1946. To Claude Spencer, we thank you, today's four-state hero.
Let's start with the lucky number 7 and a smiling Ewan Williams and a birthday party in Nevada. And Ewan, I want you to know these birthday wishes come with love from Mom, Dad, JC, and Emery.
All right, and we've got Ridley Miner turning 7 strong this year. Ridley is in Neosho Falls, Kansas.
I do not know if she goes by K squared, but I would like to start that. Kara Kingman celebrating her 10th birthday, and Kara, birthday wishes with love from Yaya and Uncle Jamie, and Kara celebrates in Pittsburgh. And a marvelous picture, looks like she's going for a little hike there.
All right, we got a big birthday celebration going on in Scammon, Kansas. Teresa Wilkinson turning 70 this year.
And look, just for us in the KOAM birthday edition, she broke out the party shirt.
Yeah, this is her party shirt, that's for sure, and that's her party hair.
Happy
as I
birthday,
understand.
Teresa.
Yes.
Sonia Blackford, she is holding her grandson Jackson right there. And Jackson, I want you to make sure that you wish Grandma Sonia a very happy birthday. They celebrate in Lamar.
Such a serious look on that little man's face. All right, Dawn and Judy Babcock celebrating their 50th anniversary. Congratulations to the Babcocks.
Judy,
golden anniversary. They're in person.
Our days on Facebook and comments. Judy was one of our favorites. She was always there with us every single morning. Don and Judy, a hearty congratulations from all of us here. One more to pass along. It might be belated, but we're going to carry it into the Memorial Day weekend. I got Terry as 22. The screen's got him as 25. 6'1" half dozen. You're still in your 20s. You know, at that age, you're good. At that age, you're not pulling hamstrings like I am. So Terry, a very happy birthday to you. And while it be belated, we're going to celebrate it for the rest of the week. A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
All right, and maybe he's 23 or 24, and we just didn't want to be late on his next birthday, so we went ahead and celebrated the 25th today.
That could be. That's a good call.
Nice. Good thinking. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up, and once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
And we start this segment off by honoring our four-state hero each and every morning, and coming up when we transition over to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. The remains of 15 veterans receiving full military rights and burials after not being claimed by family members. We're going to have that story and its resolution when we transition over to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Oklahoma authorities say they've shut down what they call a large methamphetamine trafficking organization in northeast Oklahoma. Officers with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and the Bartlesville Police Department served 13 arrest warrants, seized more than 35 pounds of meth and nearly 100 guns. OBN says the traffickers shipped anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds of meth into northeastern Oklahoma from the West Coast on a weekly basis. They say those shipments would then be moved onto the streets in Washington County, Nowata County, and parts of Kansas. You can find much more on this case at KOAMnewsnow.com. Delaware County detention officers arrested accused of smuggling contraband into the county jail. Anthony Cornell faces charges of bribery, official misconduct, 2 counts of introducing contraband into a penal institution, and possession with intent to distribute. Court documents show an investigation launched after the jail administrator learned about the contraband being smuggled. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Looks like from the radar, about 50% of the shower activity that's still left is now moved to the east of our highlighted counties, but I do want to reiterate, because it has the counterclockwise motion on it, that some of that up to the north is actually going to kick back into the central portion of the 4 states. So do not put the umbrella away as of yet. And then we're starting to clear off here to the west. We've got a little bit coming out of the eastern Kansas City area that's filtrated into our northern counties of southeast Kansas. But slowly and surely we are easing up. We pretty much are done with the real intense rain. It's going to be mostly shower activity as we progress through the late morning and afternoon hours. That gives you an idea of that circle that it keeps on churning. But after that, we kick that into central Missouri. Get ready for a Friday with sunny skies and 70s, and get ready for a marvelous Memorial Day weekend with sunshine and 80s.
Coming up today at noon, we're making the ultimate hero burger in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Morning news continues on KOAM. CBS Mornings, that's coming up next. And they're going to have the latest on the Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Beto O'Rourke exchange that happened during yesterday's press conference.
Oh, I was watching that.
Yes.
Got rowdy. Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And this morning, Chef Anthony brings out the tongs and is be cooking up some tasty brats and some flaming monkey burgers.
Plus the Navy's Top Gun School. Is there a movie about that or something?
I think it starred Tom Cruise.
Well, the actual pilots, they are actually under the spotlight, and rightfully so, thanks to the newest Top Gun film.
Awesome.
That does it for this Thursday. Be safe, please. We're just having this slew of stuff go on. Please be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.